How's it going, everybody? It is your favorite apostates. My name is McKay.
And I'm Jordan.
And no, I did not cut my hair. I just got a bun today. I don't know if I've ever done a bun on camera, but...
maybe once or twice, not very often.
It was looking kind of iffy, and I didn't have time to wash it, so... Bun it is. Anyway. Dad bun. We've got a couple of things real quick. A couple updates. If you don't like that, we'll put a timestamp in the comments. But some of them are funny, so you might want to stick around for them. And one of them is a shameless plug about a live stream that we're going to do. First of all, let's have an update on the Porgan situation. We did our video last week. If you joined us, if you had the time to join us at 1 p.m. on Monday last week, you might be watching this at 1 p.m. today, Monday, but we do a premiere every week and there's a little live chat and everything. Anyway, we had a special guest in the live chat while our video was premiering. Who was that, Jordan?
It was Paul and Morgan.
Paul and Morgan themselves graced us with their presence.
For like less than 5 minutes.
So blessed. Yeah, and I think it was just the part that they ended up talking about in their video on Thursday.
So we got a cameo.
Yeah.
In their
little channel.
In their channel.
On their channel. Well, we're kind of the little channel.
We are. So really for us, it was a cameo.
It was, honestly.
We're not interested in their audience, really.
Yeah.
So.
And they were smart enough to not mention us by name. So.
Until the end, or closer to the end.
Oh, were
Paul
they?
did mention it.
Okay.
Yes. So I really was impressed that they didn't say who we were, because they included clips of our video, but they did not say who we were, which I was kind of like impressed, because they're like, oh, we don't want to direct attention to their channel, right? Because we've covered them before. But Morgan said we do it for, what did she say, for views or...
Yeah, I can't even remember because it was so inconsequential. The part that they were speaking of was when we were talking about a little compilation video of Morgan seemingly getting more depressed or less bubbly and stuff over the years, which is obviously A, cherry picked, and B, not concrete evidence that somebody is being, losing the light in their eyes or anything.
I stand by everything we said. I have no regrets.
I mean, I don't regret anything we said, but it is not just solid evidence by itself. Anyway.
Here's my thing, though, is... I was really hoping for a response video in the sense that they were going to, roll out some of the things that we called them out on for, as far as their content goes, for being transphobic and homophobic and those things. I was really hoping.
We were ready. Honestly.
I was ready. I was really excited to see what they were going to say in response to the things that we challenged and, pushed back on, and they did not touch content at all.
It was basically, here's what the Fundy Snark Uncensored subreddit says about us, and hey guys, it's not true.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to continue doing what we do. We're going to be bigots. We're not even going to offer any counterpoints to anything that you guys bring up. So
yeah, it was we got mentioned in their live chat a few times with people are like, oh, we went over to their channel and tried to reason with them, and they were like...
One of their mods was, I'm going to say it, she was simping for them and did a super chat to let them know that she came into our comment section and defended them. And, they started calling me a homophobe when I said that I stood that marriage stands between a man and a woman, and I'm like, okay,
that's homophobia.
That's homophobia
by definition.
When you are against people having the same rights as you, that is bigotry against a group. So, what else am I supposed to call it? So that was funny. There was one other thing, I think. No, I think that was the only thing that I.
So we were disappointed. I don't know what I expected, but I was hoping they would at least tap into some of the things that they've been called out for, because they spent half of the video being like, we appreciate, feedback, and when people, tell us things that we try to improve on, and I'm like, yeah, it's like...
You're not listening.
It's surface level things, like, you guys need to be more affectionate in your video, or you guys need to slow down in your speaking. That's not what we're discussing, so... Missed the point.
Totally missed the point.
But it's fine.
Yeah, they started off saying, oh, we don't go on this subreddit, and every time we do, it's a mistake.
No, he said they've been on it one time.
Yeah, a couple times. But if they're not prowling the subreddit, then somebody must be, because we scheduled the premiere really late. Usually we'll give it at least like 12 hours or whatever we can for just so we can get the word out. But this one we accidentally set it late, and it was only like 3 hours before, and they were right there at the beginning.
So it was posted. It wasn't posted by us. It was posted by, our video was posted in FSU by somebody else. And so there's no way they're not.
Yeah, somebody's doing something.
Anyway,
that was the end of the Paul and Morgan
so
saga.
Exciting. We're so honored to be included. So
there's your bit about that. The next little bit that we're going to do, we're bringing it back to an older one. Longtime viewers will remember. New viewers, this might be your first taste of Model Mormon of the Week. A little background. Model Mormon of the Week was where the whole Satan's Ponzi scheme shirt idea came from, because a commenter who was presumably Mormon said goofy things. So when people want to get attention, we're going to make sure they get the attention that they are craving when they're in our comments section, especially when they're coming in and saying some bullshit about Mormonism that just is objectively false. So today's Model Mormon of the Week goes to Lauren S. I won't give the rest of her name because she made her YouTube name the same as her Facebook name, and I trust that nobody would do anything.
But stop doing that. Don't put your full name if you're going to troll people on the internet. Like, that's just asking for people to come for you.
People who view these videos, I know you're great people, but just so we don't have any issues.
We don't have any
We'll just say Lauren
wishes.
S.
Yes.
Lauren S. is a brilliant commenter who says that you can just leave the Mormon Church. We're propagandizing all kinds of stuff.
All we do is gossip.
And the origination of this is she left the Mormon Church when she was younger and she returned. But from what it sounds like, she went inactive from the Mormon Church, didn't remove her records, and then returned, and now is telling us that we are wrong and how it works. So I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one, Lauren. You absolutely have to go through a whole process to request that your records be removed. If you didn't have a bad time with people coming to visit you when you didn't want it, with your records being transferred when you didn't want that to happen, that's great. I love to hear it, but your experience is not a monolith in any way, shape, or form. So when there's thousands on thousands of people in the r/x Mormon who are sending requests to quitmormon.com, who are lawyers
or church headquarters,
to get their records removed, I think I'm going to have to disagree with your analysis on us lying about leaving the Mormon Church. So you were inactive, you were reactivated. We have left the church. Two different things. You know this. They talk about it in the church. People who stop going to church, they're not non-members again. They are inactive. But the comment I wanted to highlight, I just thought it was so funny because at one point Jordan responded with an LMAO or something like that.
I know. Okay, we usually don't engage with trolls, okay? We don't engage with people typically who make negative comments, but sometimes...
You don't touch the poop.
You don't touch the poo, and so sometimes I get into a space where I just want to, engage and piss off a troll. And so I got into an argument with this woman because she's just absolutely very intelligent. And so she made some lovely comments, assaulted our character, said that we contribute nothing, that all we do is make money and off gossip and propaganda and whatever. But go ahead and read her lovely comment.
Jordan threw a little LMAO in there at some point. And
as I often do.
She responded with, "Did you ever retrieve your behind that you apparently laughed off?" I couldn't. This was like a second text kind of situation where she responded, and then a couple minutes later she had that to add in a separate comment. Everyone snaps to Lauren S. Model Mormon of the week. Good job. We love it.
We love to see it. I hope, I really love that she had to say behind because she's afraid to say ass.
She wanted to say fanny, but that was a little too edgy. To contrast,
it's not Lori Alexander.
To contrast that little bit of stupidity, here's a little bit of awesomeness. An awesome viewer named Corinne listened to my plea. It wasn't really a plea, honestly. I just thought, hey, if somebody wanted to do something cool, that would be really awesome. And she wrote a little jingle for us because, if you're awesome, that's just the kind of things you do. So let's take a listen to this real quick, and we'll be right back.
Take the misogyny and patriarchy out of God. Don't get your garmies in a wad. Your favorite apostates have something to say. It's Jordan and McKay.
Okay, that's freaking amazing.
Awesome. I was so stoked when we got that email. Freaking awesome. So
I did get permission from her to share and what she wanted to us include, which was her first name. So we did get permission before anybody freaks out.
Don't worry. We have permission to do this. We'll send some stickers over her way. So
because that's amazing.
Amazing. Thank you. Nobody has to do this. Honestly, it's just really cool. So thank you. Okay, time for the shameless plug. One last thing. June 26th at 8 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, we will be having a patron-only live stream of Mormon Cinema Cringe Classic, Saturday's Warrior. So you can subscribe to any tier of our Patreon. If you're not able to make it and you want to subscribe later, you can still watch it after the fact. We'll have the VOD up for your viewing pleasure. If that's something you'd like to take part in our little live chat and everything like that, make sure you head over to patreon.com/Jordan and McKay.
It's going to be amazing, you guys. I grow more and more excited for this premiere by the day.
Yep.
I am exploding with excitement.
For American viewers, this will be on a Saturday, so feel free to consume substances to soften the blow or whatever you'd like to do.
It's not just going to be like a movie where we all just sit and watch it. It's going to be an engaging process. We're going to talk about it. We're in the comments. We're engaging with you.
It's kind of long, so we'll have to limit some of the pausing and stuff.
We won't. I feel like we won't pause.
Probably
Do you feel like
not.
we'll pause? I don't think we will.
No, probably not.
We'll answer whatever questions you guys have in the chat, and so we'll make responses and answer questions and things, so it's not like you're just watching this stupid movie by yourself.
Watching us watch the movie.
Yeah, that's dumb. So the whole point is for people to engage, throw their comments in, questions, cringe together. Everybody can joke about it. It's going to be a blast. Please come.
It'll be great. All right. Thank you for bearing with us. If you skipped over it, thanks for joining. You shouldn't have done that. That's rude. Jordan, what will we be talking about today?
What will we be talking about today?
It's not only me.
Oh my god. I'm on the struggle bus today. So a few days ago, I got a comment from a very nice commenter who had seen one of our previous videos where I very sidestepped, off the cuff mentioned that I am a bisexual person. And they commented and were like, this is the first time I've ever heard you address this in depth. Have you ever talked about this? When did you share this with people? Did I miss a video? And so, which I thought was really nice. And so if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me reference it a time or two. By and large, I've referenced it maybe a few times more recently in videos, but I've never really talked about it. So I kind of felt like it's helpful in the context of Mormonism, getting out of Mormonism, trying to understand, piecing things together for people to kind of have a backstory and to kind of examine, if they're trying to navigate the same process, trying to figure out how they're going to do it, how they're going to share if they do so choose, etc. So I felt like it might be helpful for me to share that. Now, I'm not going to say that this isn't weird for me, because I feel like it still kind of is. There is not, like, I've mentioned it off the cuff to, like, in videos and on Instagram and things, but you guys have to remember that our, like, actual family and friends tend to choose to not watch us here on purpose. And a lot of loose acquaintances and people I went to school with and things don't even know that we do this. And so by and large, like, me kind of keeping it under wraps and not really talking about it is how I've kind of dealt with things thus far. And so by doing this, I'm kind of putting it all out there, because we do have some family members that they don't watch, but they keep tabs, like they look at videos and thumbnails and things to see. And so by all accounts, like, I'm putting it out there. It's
cat is out of the bag.
Coming out. It's happening. And so I just felt it was important because I struggled with it for a long time, and so I wanted to kind of share things. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
That was a lot of blabbering. Is that a word?
Blathering. Yeah.
Blathers. Anyway, so just to kind of set the scene, in context of Mormonism, these are the things that I was taught. Now, we have a whole video. If you haven't watched it, McKay will link it here. A video about the history of the Mormon church with, gay people, what they would term homosexuality, homosexual behavior.
Same-sex attraction.
Same-sex attraction is what they call it now. The inherent sinfulness and kind of the transition from, like, really beginning of church times to now, because there's been a lot of changes over the years, especially more recently. Like, doctrinally, not really, but there's been some cultural things and verbiage and stuff that has changed. So just to set the scene, growing up, being gay was not okay. That rhymed.
Nice.
Any
Poet
form.
And you didn't know it.
Poet and I didn't know it. Any form of, like, non-straight, non-cis, any of that. I mean, even, like, what you would term, like, I mean, just having conversations about sex and sexuality in the church as it is really shamed, even if you fit the church's, like, cis, straight hetero model. It's kind of shamed, so you take yourself down, like, further into the shame by not fitting into what the church terms, like, the ideal.
Yeah.
The only, really. And so I found this one that I want to share. This is from 2004, but this is the exact, like, the things I'm about to read you were the exact things that I was told growing up, that were instilled into my brain growing up as a young person. So this is from True to the Faith, a gospel reference, was published in 2004, and it says, like other violations...
Oh, just to interrupt real quick. True to the Faith is currently a book that is in the missionary library. Like, it's required reading for missionaries.
Yeah, so good point. Like other violations of the law of chastity, which is having sex before marriage or infidelity, homosexual activity, their words, not mine, is a serious sin. It is contrary to the purposes of human sexuality. It distorts loving relationships and prevents people from receiving the blessings that can be found in family life and in the saving ordinances of the gospel. And just from a doctrinal standpoint, like it's not compatible. Like, it doesn't work. Any non-straight relationship, it doesn't align with doctrine, because in order to, like we've talked about before, in order to get to the VIP level of heaven, like, you've got to be married and it's got to be somebody of the opposite sex in order for you to get there. And so if you're not able to do that, then essentially you're not going to VIP heaven, and you're going to be kind of viewed as a little bit of an outsider. And so that's what I grew up hearing. I grew up in a very conservative family, a family that leaned very, very right, watched Fox News all the time. And so my perspective of anybody on the LGBTQ plus spectrum was very skewed negative. I didn't even have anybody who felt that they were LGBTQ plus until I was in high school, and that was my junior or senior year. And so really I had no, like, firsthand experience with, like, people in my life who might have, like, skewed the way that I thought, like, thinking contrary to church doctrine. Like, I didn't have that either. And we did not live in a, like, left-leaning area.
No.
By any means.
It's a pretty conservative suburb of Colorado. So.
It is. And so that being said, I didn't have any experience, and I don't remember like elementary school really. I only remember like really concrete or traumatic things, which is really cool. And so like it's just general things I'm not the greatest at with details, but I do remember in middle school or junior high, I felt like I was viewing men and women the same. Like I had the same like attraction to men and women, and I like going on through my college years, I thought that everybody had that. Like I thought that was normal, which I mean, for some people, I mean, it is normal. But by the church's standards, that's not normal. Like again, their words, not mine. And so I thought that was just the way it was, and I didn't think anything of it. And so end of junior high, I started to kind of experiment more. I had a really, really good friend at the beginning of, it was like when I started high school, I had a really good friend who was kind of in the same space. I feel like she was navigating kind of the same things that I was navigating. And so we kind of like, not explicitly, but just started to like lead down the path of what it would be like if we were to be together. And I didn't tell anybody. We 100% kept it to ourselves. Like we did not, I think we both knew that a lot was on the line. She wasn't Mormon, but she was very, very Catholic. And so we didn't share it with anybody, like nothing. Because her parents were very staunch Catholic, which like a lot of you know that also have the same kind of views about gay people and people on the LGBTQ plus spectrum. And so we both kept it on the DL, told nobody, told nothing. I had like a lot of times I would like scared vomit words and things that I was doing that was bad to my mom because I was afraid that she was going to find out that I was doing that. But that was one of the few things that I never shared with anybody. And so we had what I would term as a relationship. Like we were romantically and sexually involved my very like first few years, or my very first year or two of high school, I believe. I don't remember how long that went on for. Mm. But anyway, so I had some guilt because I, at the same time as those of you who have watched my Mormon Stories interview will know, I became sexually active very, very young. It was my freshman year of high school, and I was simultaneously having this relationship with my girlfriend and having relationships with, you probably couldn't even call them relationships, having hookups with older men at the same time. And so because of the law of chastity, I had a lot of guilt attached to both of these experiences. And because of what the church teaches, to me, the relationship with my girlfriend felt way heavier and way, like, much worse than me just having sex with men. Does that make sense? Yeah. That probably sounds weird if you're not Mormon.
Yeah, it's like compounded shame, I guess. 'Cause
yes.
Not only are you breaking the law of chastity by having sexual relations outside of marriage, but now it's not with somebody who's of the opposite sex.
Right.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had like compounded shame. Like I had gone, it wasn't just like I could lump the law of chastity stuff into like one pot. Like I felt like they had to be treated as different things. And so when you are sexually active before you should be, and it's outside the bonds of marriage, like part of that is going through the repentance process with a bishop. And so you have to confess those things to a bishop, which I eventually did. But I viewed it differently. Mm-hmm. And so and maybe this is like my internalized homophobia growing up Mormon, but I still did not think of myself as a bisexual person, even like after that relationship ended. Like that's how like intense my blinders were.
Well, I remember when you told me, which after was, it was like 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. Which by that point was already 2 years after we were like dating and everything. Yeah. And by that point, we were really comfortable with each other for a really long time. And we were on vacation and she like told me out of the blue, And you were like scared to tell me.
I was. We had been married for
like a year and a half.
A year and a half by that point.
Yeah. So I remember that, and I asked you, I was like, is this like something that you felt like anything, like were you attracted to her or anything like that? And you were kind of like, no, not really. And maybe that was just I don't know, you tell me, was that just the internalized homophobia? Like,
well, I look back on it now.
You didn't want to like admit that you did, or you were afraid that I might freak out or something like that?
I feel like it was different because I had tried in high school, I had tried to transition my brain out of thinking that there was anything more to that like relationship than it was. Like in my head, I rationalized it by it just being like a fling, and I was trying to be rebellious, and I was just trying to like do everything that the church tells me not to do at the same time. And so that's how I had rationalized it, so I didn't have to grapple like with this piece of my identity that I didn't want to own. And so I basically shoved it down until high school. And there was, I had been sexually active through high school and through college, and there was various points where I did have to confess things to a bishop. And the first time that I went to confess like sexual related sins, I didn't mention the girlfriend piece because I didn't feel like it was relevant. But I also knew that there is like a lot more stringent and intensive consequences for people in the church who engage in homosexual behavior. I mean, as far as the church goes, and even then, it's an excommunicable, yeah, offense. And so I was like, there's no freaking way I'm going to confess this to a bishop. Like, there's no way. And so I still felt guilty about it, but I felt like I was okay because I had confessed to the sexual sin and what we did. And I had a really good bishop at the time who didn't pry, wasn't inappropriate. And I felt like I was covered because I had shared everything. I just didn't share who with because I didn't feel like it was necessary. Yeah. And I didn't want to walk down that path because I was like, shit, my mom already thinks I'm a terrible Mormon. So if I get fucking excommunicated, then I'm in so much shit. Which brings me to that next point, which was when, some never any relationships in college, just on and off normal, like college girl sorority behavior. But nothing like serious like the relationship that I had before. But when you and I met, because I have all this like compounded shame and things just from like being sexually active before marriage in general, I didn't feel like I was a good enough Mormon. So I told McKay everything that I had done, like sexual wise, like 2 weeks into us dating. Because if you've watched our Mormon Stories interview, I did not want to run the chance of feeling like I wasn't forthright about who I was as a person, and I still felt really like, even though you repent and everything's fine again, like there's this terrible social construct around virginity, which we have as a society as a whole, not just generally,
but especially in Mormonism.
But especially in Mormonism. And so I got all this stupid little what do you call them? The metaphor lessons, the object lessons.
The object lessons.
That if you have sex before you're married, you go from being a cool piece of gum to a chewed up piece of gum that nobody wants. And so I was always really forthright in relationships with Mormon men that this is what I had done, but I checked all my boxes, I repented, everything's good. But I still felt obligated to share. And so I did that with McKay. I laid everything out on the table, my past trauma, my past abuse. I put everything out there. And I said that I had been sexually active, and I told him my body count, and then that was kind of the gist of it. I did not mention the sex or gender of the people that I was dating at the time, that I had dated in the past, other than like the obvious exes that I had had for longer periods of time. Yeah. But the same thing within high school, I was in relationships with men for the majority of my high school career. Like I had a long-term serious relationship later on in high school. And so I had managed to push all this to the side and be like, that was just a fling. And so I had always felt guilty after marrying McKay because I felt like I was withholding. I felt like I was lying about things because I hadn't shared that thing. And that was like the one and only thing that I would not share with him. Everything else was out on the table. But that was the one thing that I felt like I couldn't share. So I feel like for a long time during our marriage, I kind of hinted at it and just kind of like brought things up like fleetingly, hoping that you weren't going to like, you know, like jump into it and be like, what are you talking about? And I felt like maybe if I like dropped the piece of chicken like enough, it would like desensitize you.
Desensitize.
So when I finally did share it with you, you'd be like, okay, well, you've been, you know, dropping hints about this for like the majority of our marriage, and now I'm like starting to piece it together.
Yeah, I was never that was stupid. But
I don't know how obvious I really was about it though.
I didn't expect it, I don't think, from what I can remember, but it didn't like appall me or anything because I was in a more accepting headspace at that point already.
Yeah. We were still Mormon though at that time.
We were still Mormon. We were still going to church and everything like that. Did you ever at any point feel like that like invalidated our sealing when we went to the temple and got sealed for our wedding?
I didn't, because I felt like going to the bishop and saying what I had done was more important than saying with who. And so I felt like I had it taken care of. Like I felt I was good, and I had prayed about it and felt like I was okay. And I never got the impression that it was a bad thing. And because like deep down, I think I knew that I was different in this way, but because of the rhetoric of the church and because of the policies that were happening at the same time, like my senior year of high school was right around the time when that 2015 policy came in place where they wouldn't allow children of gay parents to be baptized, and they classified anybody who was in a same-sex relationship as apostates, and they were living in apostasy. And so I always felt like a disconnection with the church in that sense, because I just was like, you just can't treat people like this. And my mom would always be like, well, you can be gay, but you just can't have a same-sex relationship. So, like, you can still get to the top level of heaven, but you can't be in a same-sex relationship.
Well, so you can't, actually. Well,
so you either be celibate,
or you marry somebody of the opposite sex.
Yeah. Like, those are your options. And to me, that never was okay with me. Like, those aren't options.
That's not fair.
No, it's not. And so I always kind of had, I feel like, some dissonance between those things. So I think I kind of overlooked those things in myself because I didn't want to go down the path of the disconnect between like wanting to be authentically who I am, but also at the same time not wanting to try to. I think I knew if I really dove into that piece of my identity, it would be in major conflict with the church and what the church believes, and it would just, I've already struggled with multiple things in the church as it was, so if I added that to the pile, then it's just going to send me down the path of surely leaving the church. And I think I knew that.
And here we are.
So it was all for nothing, folks.
Damn.
But I don't even remember how I brought it up on that trip. But we were in Yellowstone. I do remember that.
Yeah. I don't recall either. It was, I mean, at the time it was really inconsequential for me because I didn't think it was like a big part of you. And, you know, anyway, the things and the context and everything like that pointed to that just because of where we were at, like, in our faith and everything like that. So I don't want to, I'm not saying that to be like, oh, well, it's not an important thing to Jordan, because it is, but at the time it just didn't really seem like that. So,
well, that's, I think, the response that I wanted, because I think what I was the most afraid of was telling you that and then it changing like the dynamic of our relationship, or you feeling like, you know, our sealing was invalidated because I wasn't honest, like, about that specific aspect of my life. Or, you know, even now I hesitate. Like, I've known that I've wanted to talk about this, but I talk myself out of it constantly because, you know, we have some really intense Mormon family members. And when we left the church, we had at least one close family member in particular who was like, what did you do, like, to cause this? Like, what happened? Did you guys not wait to have sex? Did you violate the law of chastity? Did you, you know, what led to you leaving the church? Because for some people, there has to be a thing. Like, oh, he's addicted to porn. Oh, they fooled around before they got married.
Well, and it just goes to show that if there is someone has a problem with the church, it can't be the church at fault. Period.
No.
There has to be some sort of fault within the people.
With you. Yeah.
So that's just like obvious red flag. That's not the case in any sense.
So I hesitate, and that's been a long-standing thing that I've known. I hesitate even now to share things like this because, you know, their opinion doesn't matter and I don't care and I know that. But it's kind of a hit it where it hurts kind of thing because now basically I've given this family member ammo for being like, well, that's why. She didn't repent and you guys got married and now look at where you are.
I know.
And so it's hard for me in that sense. And I don't really think...
What's next, Jordan? Divorce? Oh my gosh.
But I don't even... It's kind of weird, and maybe friends in similar situations will understand. But I don't ever... You know, I was not a person who liked labels generally. Like, I don't like being labeled as certain things because I feel like there are some... I feel like people make assumptions based off of labels alone, and it kind of makes
Damn, you sound like Rusty Nelson right now.
Oh my gosh. It kind of makes me weird. But I think a lot of it was, you know, combination with the church, with Mormon family members who are, you know, Mormon family members already don't like me, and so if I add, like, you know, additional things to the list, it's going to be like, well, he married a bisexual person, so what the McKay?
Marriage is in the pooper.
Sorry to say. But it really wasn't until we left the church that I allowed myself to start taking on the bisexual label. Because for a long time, even while we were married, I would say everyone's a little gay. And I know that now that's... As a bisexual person now, I can say that's kind of funny. Because to me it is, but I also... It's kind of microaggressive and rude and... You know, I get that. I would not say that currently. But that's kind of how I rationalized it, is I was like, everybody feels this way. Like, everybody has, you know, a handful of people that they would switch to the other team for. Like, that was just my logic, was that it was normal. Like, it was, you know, it wasn't, because people term it like it's bad or negative. That's the perception that I had. So I'm like, it's not bad or negative if everybody feels this way. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like
how could it be bad if it's like human nature?
Right.
Yeah. Which is like the whole premise of like all of Mormonism, where your nature is bad thing. The natural man is an enemy to God. I know that's not unique to Mormonism, but yeah, they paint all these natural things as just sinful, and you have to put those things off. You have to become more like a child, which is kind of just weird in and of itself when you think about it. And you have to become more like God and yield to him and submit to him and things like that. So when something goes against the grain that's natural for you, and somebody's telling you that it's sinful, it's bad, it's of the devil ad nauseum, I mean, it builds up over time, and it creates this really distorted view of that nature that's within you.
It does.
So,
well, and couple that with, like, I didn't really allow myself to start navigating and embracing, like, myself as a bisexual person until we left the church. And then couple that with the extensive amount of, you know, flack that the LGBTQ plus community gets in general, but the amount, and we've talked about this before, but the amount of bisexual erasure that happens in and outside of the LGBTQ plus community, where I've seen people, bisexual partners who are in, you know, a heterosexual relationship, you know, where people come in and they're like, why do you have to, like, come out? You're in a straight relationship. Like, why does it matter? And so there's a lot of those comments that fly around, particularly with bisexuality. And so even more for me, I was like, it's not even like, it doesn't matter because I'm in a relationship with a man. So what, you know, what's the point? And that was kind of my mentality. But that's kind of the standard that a lot of people have set when it comes to bisexuality. And that if you're with a partner of the opposite sex, then why does it really matter for you to have to share that information? Because it's not like you're with a person. You know what I mean? Like, it's stupid to me and it's irrelevant and it doesn't make any sense, and it's just another way for people to slight bisexual people.
Yeah.
But that, you know, put all those things together and it's really hard to, like, feel a reason to be like, this is important. But the longer that we've been out of the church, the more I've explored it. Like, this is for most people, like, a part of your identity. It's who you are. It's authentically yourself. And I feel like more, like, 90% of the time, we're, like, major open book with you guys. Like, to a point where sometimes I'm like, oh, my God. Oversharing. But
TMI.
But I feel like it's important because this part of anybody's identity is valid. And I feel like especially in Utah and Mormon culture and conservative areas and, growing up in a conservative family, like, it's just constantly telling you to shove it down, shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. And so to have to, like, climb out of the hole that I was raised in with, a ton of shame, a ton of homophobia, a ton of bigotry, to, like, climb out of that and be like, no, I'm here, this is me, this is who I am. I just think that that's a really important thing going forward. And now, since I'm more open about it and talking about it, I feel like, since people have asked and, like, have you come out? And I'm like, I get that for some people really. It needs to be, like, this big thing. And I totally appreciate that, love it, do what makes you comfortable. Some people don't feel the need. Some people feel like they need to do this big thing. And then you have people in between. Like, and I hear that. No matter what you want to do, what you feel comfortable with, do it. So I guess this is my way of doing it, even though it's, for a lot of you, you've heard me mention it at least offhand before. But as a person who grew up Mormon, did all the things, checked all the boxes, still screwed up, made it out of the church, trying to piece together the parts of my identity that I might have shoved down. Like, I feel like it's just important for people to see that.
Yeah.
Because it's helpful as a, like, especially if you're a person on the inside that's, like, trying to figure it out. We talked about this in our last video, but sometimes it gets labeled like a struggle, like you're struggling with your identity or you're struggling to try to figure it out. And I think you said navigating is a much better term.
You. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you said that.
No, I thought it was you.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was you.
I think I said exploring or something like that. But it's not the struggling or the navigating of your sexuality. It's the struggling with the bullshit ideas that people have painted onto that part of your identity.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
And honestly, most of us who come from situations like this where we're in a high demand religion that's incompatible with anything that's not cis heteronormative behavior, we come out of these things with, like, this huge amount of internalized homophobia, transphobia, etc. I, like, in 9th grade, I remember the words coming out of my mouth to somebody that if I had a gay kid, that I would literally unalive them, like, unironically saying that. That obviously is not the vibe I want to have anymore in any sense of the word. And it's embarrassing to think about things like that and thinking that that was okay at any point, especially because I don't want to pull the whole, I have gay friends card, but there were people in my life who didn't fit the cis hetero mold. Yeah. And I would see these people and I would still think those kinds of things. And I would say, oh yeah, I love that person, but was saying those kinds of things. Huge disconnect. So those are the kinds of things that we have to unlearn when we're coming out of these things. So uncomfortability surrounding these kinds of topics and not wanting to identify with your sexuality or anything like that just becomes a lot harder because it's now encased in layers of shame and anti-messaging and all kinds of things like that. It's hard, honestly.
It is. And I've shared a lot of things about, like, traumatic things from my childhood and things, but this still really feels like a, intensely vulnerable thing for me to do, especially on the internet, because, we get hate comments and things from people all the time, and, a lot of them I let go, but, I know that I will get hate from this, and that's fine. But it just makes it, I feel bad for the people that are going to watch this video, and there's going to be some inherently negative comment left by a, bigoted Mormon or something. And the last thing that I want is for the content of this video to be and like my identity as a bisexual person to be overridden by a bigoted Mormon who thinks that I'm going to hell, which is fine. Like, I don't care what you think. But that's kind of the thing, is I feel like especially within Mormonism, like we've just got this like there's the doctrine, and then there's like the intensely homophobic cultural bubble that exists, especially here in Utah, where it is just, you know, I taught in the Utah public school system for a while, and I had, you know, some kids from time to time who aligned more on, you know, trying to, in Utah, express their identity as who they was and who they felt they are, and like who they are as a person authentically, and trying to balance that with the really judgy culture and teachers and everything. And so I just want to put this out in the open as a validating thing for anybody who's navigating this process and what it looks like for you and what it means for you. And I just want to reiterate that there's no wrong way to go about this. Like, it's not...
Or time frame or anything.
Like, there's nobody who's saying that you have to come out and share it with everybody. There's nobody who's saying, you know, just because one person does it one way doesn't mean that you should feel pressure to do it a certain way. Like, there's no wrong way of going about this, whether you choose to come out with it or share or be active in, you know, advocacy work or whatever you have to do. Like, it doesn't... Whatever you do is good. So don't take me doing this as like an expectation that you've put on yourself to do like this same thing, because I'm not recommending that. Unless you want to do that, then we're here for it. Go for it. But that's just kind of my hope, is that this is kind of a niche community as far as Mormonism and ex-Mormonism, and trying to, you know, piece everything back together and identify who you are and your authentic self and what you want to put out into the world. And so I feel like it's helpful with the platform that we have to share this information, especially coming from two people who grew up with some homophobic and transphobic ideals that were pressed upon us repeatedly, that some of which that we adopted before, you know, disavowing those things and deconstructing homophobia and transphobia. So I think it's helpful for people to see people coming from that side, you know?
Yes.
As testament that you can. Like, if you were once homophobic and transphobic and you felt like gay people were going to hell and that was your thing, like, it's never too late for you to come back to the other side and not think that anymore. Because you don't just become, you know, unhomophobic overnight. That's not how it works. It's a process.
You could be like a Paul, you know, where he got converted.
Maybe.
Certainly. Not Paul, not Porgan Paul. I'm talking about the apostle. Not Paul. Who am I thinking of? Yeah, Paul.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. I think.
Yeah, Paul.
I'm terrible with that stuff.
Anyway, yeah. So we genuinely hope that everybody can safely live and be true to themselves if they're in the position to be able to do so. We want everybody to safely be able to do that. Obviously, there are circumstances that are beyond our or your control that might limit that, but we hope that everybody has some point in their lives when they're able to live authentically and everything like that. So to wrap this up, I guess, the Mormon Church is extremely homophobic. They want marriage to be between a man and a woman. They have stated that explicitly time and time again. Their rhetoric enables terrible things. Literally, just this weekend, Patriot Front was caught. They were trying to incite a riot, or whatever you want to say. The white nationalist fascist group right outside of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, going to protest, quote unquote, at a pride event. And there were Mormons in that group. So this kind of rhetoric emboldens people who are already on the fringe to do extreme hate activities, like
potentially violent.
Yeah. So we don't fuck with that at all.
Well, that's what can happen. It's a slippery slope into extremism. It always is.
Yeah.
You don't become extreme overnight.
Yeah, I wanted to finish things off with this quote from, what's his name? Damn it. Boyd Packer, who was the president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles. If he had just held out for a couple more years, he would have become prophet president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormon Church, which nightmare fuel, honestly. They decided to put this quote randomly in his little obituary on the church news. It was really important. But in 1993, President Packer warned that religion faced the greatest threat from three groups: feminists, homosexuals, and intellectuals.
Fuck yeah.
And all I have to say is, if those are your enemies, your religion isn't worth it. And yeah, burn it to the ground, honestly.
Eventually it will be, because it just cannot withstand. It can't. At least not in large numbers. So basically, if you're a big enough of a prick to put that in your obituary,
asshat, yeah.
Like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for you.
I'm embarrassed, honestly. Yeah, that guy sucked. He wasn't cute. Despite what the last thing he said in General Conference was. He was not cute. So anyway, thank you to all of you who have stuck around to the end of this. This one was a hair shorter than most of our other ones, but thank you for hanging around. We love you. If you're not already subscribed on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on one of our podcast platforms, save our podcast, leave us a rating. We love to see when people leave us ratings and stuff like that. We love each and every one of you. We hope the best for you. If you would like to participate in our cool live stream that we're doing for our patrons only, you can go over to patreon.com/Jordan and McKay. You'll have access to exclusive content and other things of that nature, so go check it out. I won't plug it any further because we already talked about it. If you'd like to catch up with us in other apps such as TikTok and Instagram, you can find us at Jordan and McKay on both of those, respectively.
Go follow us on Instagram. We're almost at 10K.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram. We'd love to hit 10K. That'd be awesome. TikTok is a little older. We have a nice little video bank of how we got started doing this stuff. If you'd like to join our little community of Discordian people, I don't know, what do you call a person who uses Discord? Leave it in the comments below. If you'd like to join our Discord community, you can find the link in the description of this video. Sorry, homies who listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you'd like another way to support us, you can find us on Etsy, Happy Brain Collective, or you could get an awesome t-shirt like I am wearing right here at our Teespring, which the link to both of those are in the description. And last but not least, we have a awesome collaboration with Exmo Candle Co. You've probably seen me talk about it already, but we love this scent. We love the company. We love Jen. Everything's awesome about it. Please go and support them. That also supports us. They give us a little kickback, but we'd rather you go and buy Exmo Candle Co. candles. Even if you don't buy ours, I don't give a shit. Just buy some of them. They're great products. I love them. We have
support a small business.
A bunch of them. So support a small business. Support people who survived religious fundamentalists, high demand religion things.
So all in all, thanks for listening to my story. Please leave me nice comments so I don't immediately regret this.
And thanks everyone for watching and being supportive and loving us. And we love all of you. And we'll see you next time.